You started with a station wagon, an old trailer, and a Victor mower.
That one meeting shaped so much of my life from that point. We don't meet that margin. Our business is not sustainable. We are soul destroying. And I had a choice. I could buy a room for £18, or I could sleep on the street in Rome.
You think you've learned a few lessons along the way?
Good employees, like really decent people, have been lost because of their personal circumstances.
When did you realise it was the very best thing you've ever done?
Ironically, when it didn't work, people setting up in ghillie suits in the paths that we used to walk to work. I wasn't even scared because I was too stupid. I just spent most of the night at the window, like peering out the window.
Hello everyone, my name's Strang, and I hope my younger self is listening. Welcome to episode 17 of The Hard Way. My guest tonight is a very nice man called Dale Cavanagh. He's the co-founder of Greengrass Lawn Mowing and Garden Care. You're a former banker turned business owner. You're passionate about culture, family, and doing things differently. And if I remember it right, you once went overseas because you were going to buy a pair of socks.
Something like that.
Something like that. Welcome.
Thanks, man.
Are we going to get straight into it?
Let's do it.
All right. So, one thing I'm happy about, you grew up in Townsville. I lived there at one point in my life. And you had a lot of influence from your family and your grandmother. Tell us about Townsville. Tell us about what those influences were like.
Yep. Townsville was an amazing place to grow up. Yeah, you had I show my age, so you had the old school freedom. You could actually get away and play in the bush, but then also you had Townsville. It was a proper town to grow up in. And yeah, my family were my big influence. So
what made that influence?
They were amazing. So I truly think I had the best parents out there. So for example, and grandmother was another big influence. So my grandmother was someone who read prolifically, but she actually had the patience to sit and talk about those books to a very small child. And it's not until you start thinking back on it, there's something that really influenced me as I got older. And then my parents, it was just the breadth of experiences they actively tried to give my brother and I.
Do you want to, as in like sports, school, whatever it might be?
I think it was more the everyday thing, but then also a bit out there. So spending 5 months traveling around the country in a caravan, which is pretty amazing. Going from
nothing like a bit of close quarters with all of the family. You rather knew you survived it by the sound of it.
Oh, we loved it. Don't know if mum and dad didn't come to almost not surviving it sometimes.
But look, and your childhood is what forms you. So, and that's why, especially with your grandmother, and the one thing about being able to read and then process a book, that teaches patience and process and an understanding, which you're getting now. Probably you didn't understand it then, but you get it now and you're grateful for it. When did you move away from Townsville?
So I moved away when I was 18, and so I was driving, finished school, had tried to go to university, found out I wasn't very good at...
What did you try and do at uni?
Engineering.
Engineering?
Yeah, so I loved the actual engineering side, but I loved drinking and partying a lot more.
There's a bit of a theme amongst a lot of our guests around not quite making it through a few of those early things.
Yeah, so I was working night fill at good old Woolies. Yep. And I was driving home and heard an ad on the radio that was advertising going overseas, working in the US at ski resorts. And of course they said the phone number, and it was back in the day before Google, if you can believe that. And I thought, well, if I get home and I call the number, I get it right, then I'm going overseas. If I don't get it right, then I call my mate and follow him in some very stupid decisions. And thankfully I got the number right and went for a 3-month holiday that lasted 3 years.
So was it tough to make that decision, or was it almost like the Riddler and you're flipping the coin in their head to go?
Flipping the coin in the head, and it was just a sheer weight off when they answered. at that time.
So what made you feel like that you had to go and do that or wanted to go and do that trip?
I think this, not to get too deep and meaningful, but it comes back to having
Absolutely.
good parents. Sort of what you're for. But having good parents and good upbringing. It was, as a teenager, you go and do all those stupid things. And I could see it happening. And so to find this outlet was,
it brings me back to one of my favourite things I say all the time now. It's called ask. You ask. You'll never get anything unless you ask.
Yep.
No one will give you anything unless you ask. And look, at 18, you went, I'm going to make a phone call and ask. You could have got the number wrong, but you made it. So what did you do over there?
So worked on a ski resort. So that was fun. It was first night landing in LA, and a little North Queensland boy, seeing homeless people, hearing gunshots in the night.
Did you see?
Look, I think I wasn't even scared because I was too stupid. I just spent most of the night at the window, like peering out the window, watching certain goings on. It was fabulous. And
So where are the ski resorts?
I actually went over to Virginia.
Oh, right.
Yeah, a bit weird, but it was just amazing. A little private ski resort.
So what did you learn out of those experiences? I said you went for 3 months and there for 3 years, so you obviously didn't do 3 years of ski resort.
No. So I did the 3 months there, and then pretty much got a letter saying you've overstayed your visa, get out. And so managed to get a work visa for the UK in record time. And so it was pretty much in a couple of days able to fly out of the US into the UK.
So what did you do in the UK?
Yeah, so started off working retail of all things. That was fabulous. And ironically, ran into a man sold him a backpack. And it's one of these chance meetings. This guy, late 80s, walks in unassuming, wants to buy a backpack. And I thought he made a joke about not being able to carry his backpack in the backpackers' hostels anymore. He was deadly serious. Every single year, he and his wife used to go somewhere. And then when she died, she made a promise to keep travelling to a country every year. Mm-hmm. And he tried to stay in backpacker hostels so that he could keep in touch with people. And just the sheer vibrancy and curiosity of this guy in his 80s who'd never stopped. And that one meeting actually shaped so much of my life from that point.
So then you went from retail in the UK, mm-hmm. One of the most poignant meetings you like of your life, and then you end up in banking.
So from there I went to hospitality, so in a pub, managing a pub for 12 months after that as well in the UK, and all over the place. Lived in Belfast for a little while, and that's where I went. I was working in a backpackers hostel.
Yep.
That's where I went to buy a pair of socks, and saw a ski trip. I went up, buggered the socks, so I got on a plane that afternoon when I was ski trip instead.
And so where was the ski trip?
That was Andorra, so it's between France and Spain.
Nice.
Yeah, it was lovely actually. So I'll stop jumping around. So.
No, I actually really like it. I actually want to pull more of these bits apart because you've just summed up 3 or 4, probably almost 5 years of your life in about 2 minutes. But there's more to them. You think of your stories inside of that, your lessons. We got one little bit about a backpack.
Yeah.
And one little bit about a pair of socks. But you had an amazing time. But what made it amazing?
It was how shockingly different everything was, but yet the same.
Yes.
So at the ski resort, for example, in the US, I think it was President Clinton at that time. So they came.
Yeah, right, yep.
Yeah, so they had some conference there.
Yeah.
And so the whole resort gets locked down. You've got people setting up in ghillie suits in the paths that we used to walk to work. And you go to walk off the path to go somewhere, and suddenly someone just stands up in the middle, like, who didn't exist a minute ago, and just like, no, you can't come in here.
Okay.
And yep, don't argue with that.
Man, I'm okay.
Yeah, that's it. It was the most amazing thing, It's
Did you get to see Bill?
Yeah, got to see Bill. Yeah, the motorcade was the most impressive thing.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just...
We've seen lots of movies about it. Is it the same as the movies?
It is exactly the same, right down to the guy with the whopping great machine gun parked in the back of the well, whatever they call it, pickup behind him, pointing at the crowd.
Did you ask for a go at it?
No. I did manage to, jumping around again, another time I was in New York, a couple of years later, I managed to accidentally walk in on another presidential event that was happening. I wanted to see an aircraft carrier. And there was this big long line of people. I thought they were there to see someone. So, of course, just being a stupid kid, I'm like, I jumped the fence and just walked into this museum. And the girl at the front desk looked really surprised. She's like, can I help you? I'm like, yeah, I just want to go have a look around. She's like, do you have a ticket? I'm like, no, I'm here to buy one. And she's like, no, but do you have a ticket? I'm like, no, I'm here to buy one. And she's like, hang on. That comes out, and this big dude comes out and he goes, do you have a ticket? I'm like, I just want to buy one. And he thankfully had the good grace to realise that I was clueless, and he explained to me that I'd entered an exclusion zone and shouldn't be there.
Okay. You were very lucky you had a guy who said, let's solve this rather than you being face first on the ground in a set of handcuffs.
Pretty much. And thankfully he had the good grace too. Like, we were both having a good chuckle about the fact that somehow I'd entered a security zone simply by walking in.
Oh, he was probably not chuckling in the back of his head. Someone was getting their backside kicked.
Yeah.
So what took you to New York?
I used to travel back occasionally just for the hell of it. I love New York. But
So how many years do you reckon you were overseas?
I probably, that time, probably only about 3 years. So
At that time. So you've done a lot of travel in those early years?
Yes. Yeah, so...
And you obviously had the bug.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's something that I'll probably tell anyone who thinks that they can't travel. You absolutely can.
Oh.
You actually don't need a whole lot of money in the bank to do it.
I literally, some of the best times I've ever had, literally involved me having the choice. I had, whatever it was at the time, £18. And I had the choice. I could buy a room for £18, or I could sleep on the street in Rome. And I'm like, cool, I'm sleeping on the street in Rome. And it's like, and again, it's like one of those experiences where I've got support, I can call someone for money, I'm in no trouble at all. But yeah, it was a cool night, and these homeless guys came over and all chipped in and found me enough money. They bought me a cup of coffee and gave me a blanket. I'm just like, it's that sort of experience.
Did you tell your mother that you were sleeping on the ground in Rome?
It's just between you and me, Graham.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't watch. But that's those experience side of things.
Yeah.
That's why, I want you to tell all this because that's phenomenally cool. Like, I can remember breaking into a castle in the UK when I was over there. It was a very long time ago. Mum, you don't know that either. But it's these experiences and the stuff we get to do shapes. Fast forward to now, hello, we're as mature, grown-up adults most of the time.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're married. Mm-hmm. You have children. What came first, the marriage or the lawn mowing?
Definitely the marriage.
Okay. Tell us about your darling wife.
Yeah, she's amazing. She puts up with me. So that says a lot about her.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, so yeah, Nat and I, we met while we were both at University in Brisbane. Mm-hmm. And yeah, she's the reason I got my first job, because I'd finished university and figured, I've got all these degrees, I've got, whatever it was, 2 degrees now, and I'm like, I'm just going to stay working behind the bar because it's fun. And she's like, no, you're not. And so she actually said, here you go, I've sent your resume into this bank. You should apply for that. You applied for that job.
So what were you doing at the bank?
Business banking. Yeah.
So how long did that for?
Did that for a couple of years and then went into more corporate side. Mm-hmm. And so I think all up I think it was like 8 years of banking or something like that. Yeah.
How does banking compare to travel?
Oh, soul destroying. I shouldn't say that. Like, it's one of those institutions. The people are phenomenal. I think it's like everywhere. The people are amazing, and the customers are incredible. Especially when I was fortunate enough where it was still very much you worked your way up, and you got your experience.
Less political, more,
but for me too, Nat and I both, by that time I was in Sydney, and Nat and I were both ready to get out by then, out of Sydney. So we went to Tamworth, and I went back to small business banking, and that's when it had changed. It was computer says yes or computer says no.
So that sort of created a disconnection for you?
Oh, yes, soul destroying. Yeah. So you'd have, and again, it's not to, I'm not trying to backpedal. It's not to spit badly about the bad quality of individuals, but yeah, it was just
at that time for you, you just went, this is not me. This is not my purpose.
Yeah.
So how did you, or at what point did you wake up and go, I need to do something that, fills my cup, makes me happy, challenges me?
Well, once again, my amazing wife said, find something else, or we're probably going to smother you in your sleep. And
good motivation, isn't it? I've had some conversations like that, and we're still here, so we got it somewhat right.
That's it, just smart enough to listen. No, so I actually went and ran a charity for a couple of years. Did that. So that was supporting adults with a mental illness.
Yep.
And then we left Tamworth and headed to good old Toowoomba.
The Woomba.
Yes.
So did you go straight into lawn mowing here, or was it?
No, I was incredibly privileged to be able to just take a few months off and do nothing. And by that time, the second bub had come along. And I had one of those moments, instead of trusting myself, I probably panicked and said, oh my God, I've got 2 kids now, I've got to do something responsible. So I thought, well, I'll go get a responsible job. And I went back to small banking.
Yep.
And hated it with a passion. Yeah.
So I've got a line here that says the accidental business that started as a fitness plan.
Yep. So after gaining many, many pounds and hating life, and I think that was in the space of 6 months if I was lucky. Just got to get out. And honestly, it was get out or be pushed out anyway. Yeah. But so much credit to the team that were there. They were incredible. I've always loved it. Did a little bit in landscaping in Tamworth as well. Yeah. And so it was meant to be 10 jobs a week is what it was supposed to be. It was enough to basically pay for the beer and get a bit of sunshine.
Yep, because you started with a station wagon, an old trailer, and a Victor mower.
A little 18-inch Victor mower that was already a couple of years old, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And
so did it work getting the poundage off?
Oh God, yes. I think by the end of the first quarter, I was about 3 inches down on the belt, and
no one quite understands how much that job flogs you.
It was fabulous.
I remember Jamie Lee working for you, and basically, I guess the fittest I've ever seen her was working for you and playing all that sport at the same time.
It's funny. She was the only person I think we've ever had who finished the first day and went, "Oh, yeah, that was okay." And whereas most people have usually...
I've seen some of you guys at the end of the first day because they've usually been at my place.
That's right.
And me sending you photos of garden tools going, missing something?
Oh, whoever knew you could spend so much money on secateurs.
Yeah, well, thank you for kitting out my wall.
Yeah.
So, when did you realise green grass was going to actually be your business, not your fitness hobby?
Ironically, it was the first time I had actually injured myself properly. Had an old back injury, which I actually didn't even know about, but it flared up and I couldn't work. And so I pretty much had, at that time I had an offsider, just doing part-time, and I pretty much had the choice of close the business or give more responsibility to someone. And so this person, incredible, like he stepped up and really helped out. Pardon me. And then just as I got over that, I had to go and get my appendix out. As you do.
As you do.
And so then again, it was, well, do we just, as much as that's only a few days, really, but it was just like clearly that was the point where it's like, well,
the universe is telling me something.
Yeah, you either need to, I think be young or just be willing to flog yourself. And so at that point, it's like, okay, well, we will start to look at stuff. And so it wasn't really planned.
Yeah. You've been doing greengrass how long now?
Be 8 years at the end of this year.
8 years. You think you've learned a few lessons along the way?
Slowly.
Slowly.
Yes.
How much has saying yes to everyone hurt you?
Yeah, you can really see it in my face.
Absolutely.
Look, I've heard a few of your other guests say it. I'm a people pleaser.
Yeah.
I didn't realise it until I started the business, really. But saying yes was just one of the most detrimental things. And
don't feel alone. I've done it here.
yeah. Oh,
I'm assuming Jack has probably had a little bit of an experience with it. See, on the other side of the camera? Yep.
yeah. Yeah, you end up just running, you end up disappointing everyone and doing
You overpromise,
work.
you under-deliver, you don't make any money.
Oh, God, no. Yeah. So as a one-man show, you could sort of get away with it.
Because you can choose.
Oh, you can just work more hours.
Yeah.
But eventually there's too much work, too many clients, and you can't. Yeah.
And probably leads to undercharging.
Oh, yes.
I'm assuming there was a point along the way of this 8-year journey where all of a sudden you looked at that sentence in your head, whether it was you and that or not, but when did you realise going, actually, we need to change?
It sort of crept up on me a few times, actually, because it's a bad habit that was hard to break. So initially it was just that. I'd said yes to someone and it was sort of coming to crunch time and it was like, right, we've got to do this. And I realised there physically was not enough hours in that week to actually do all the things that I'd promised. And I could have worked 24 hours a day and it just wasn't going to happen. And so then that was the first time to step back.
How did you let them down? Did you ring them and just say, mate, I just can't do it?
Yeah, just had the hard conversation. And funnily enough, the world didn't end. And the ones I had to call actually were completely understanding.
Amazing. Good, honest conversation. Most of your customers will go, you know what? Yeah, I can work with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially when things are out of your control.
Yeah.
And probably brings me along the line of one of your lines here is focusing on quality over quantity and creating business that you'd want to work for yourself. How did you go about creating a business with your team that, if you had to employ yourself, you would?
Try to give people room to think for themselves. And it's a little bit it's easy in one respect, but it's hard in the other. It's easy to do because you just treat people well and it goes well. But on the other side, it's hard because not everyone is like you. It's an obvious statement.
Yeah.
But if I go to work, I want to be challenged. I want to be thrown in the deep end. I want to learn. I want to be busy. And I've so many great people that have worked for me over the years have wanted to come to work, clock on, do their job, clock off, and not think. And they've been amazing. So,
Have you struggled with that, being people who are they're just happy, I'm getting paid, I want to go home?
I think I've lost some good people over the years because I couldn't get that through my head. Our job's repetitive.
Yes.
And and so I'm always I was always trying to give people more responsibility and more to do and more challenge, and I actually had to have one of my guys sit me down and just say, hey, I just want to come and do the same thing every day. I want to know what I'm doing week.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. And that was honestly groundbreaking for me. Yeah.
But that also means that you had a really good staff member too. If he was able to be that honest with you, how did you work out you wanted to build your business your way, not everyone else's way?
One thing the banking gave me is I had exposure to hundreds of businesses. And to see those businesses where the business owners were the micromanagers and they were the boss, and those people just, they never had fun. They just, they might have made money, but so did the other guys.
Yeah.
But they were always fighting with themselves.
Yeah. And I know that disease. I go through it at times because it's just got to be right.
Yeah.
Why aren't you following the process? It's got to be right. And, like you've met Michael, who's spent some time with you. He was probably the scariest employee I've ever done because I had to put him in between me and the micromanagement, so I stopped micromanaging.
Yep.
And talk about a man who's very good at a tough conversation, and I think he's hit me between the eyes many times going, go and have a cup of coffee.
Yep.
Along that, you're building this base of clients. You've got all these people coming on board, but you and I have talked about the A client, the B client, and the rest. How have you worked out what your client is and what the other clients you don't want are?
Eloquently, we describe it as the no dickhead policy. And look, it's we have that for staff and we have it for clients.
Okay, well, break that back for me. What builds that?
So, I'll start with the staff side because that's where everything starts, is with your staff. On the staff side, it's if I don't want to sit in a car with someone for 8 hours, then I don't want that person on my team. They can be an absolute superhero on the work, but if no one can tolerate them, if you can't put up with them, they just don't belong. It's as simple as that. They're going to destroy your productivity ultimately.
And it's hard. I've had to do that recently, and it cost me a good friend of mine. And but for the overall show.
Yep. But it leads on to, you then end up in an environment where if you've got the right people, they in turn will encourage the right people to stay. And I think in part that is also, we sit, you'll have two guys in a U, and they're nothing alike. They are polar opposites in every respect. And yet they can respect each other and go, I don't mind this guy.
But that comes down to your culture. That's your team.
Yep.
And have you found that if you are looking for someone, because they know what kind of team you like, they will actually bring in good people too, going, hang on, I know someone.
Yep. That is where we've had our most success. And it's interesting. You'll have people, you'll have the guy, one of the guys will come and go, I know someone's looking for a job. And you just be like, that's fine. Absolutely love to hire them. Have a think about you being in the car with them 8 hours, you having to pick up the slack if they don't do it, and how they're going to get on with the rest of the team. And about half the time, someone will come back and go, I've had to think about it. I don't think they'd fit in, so I won't pass your number on.
So where did you find the values for all that?
Treating the staff, obviously learned experiences, place of work.
Yeah.
Going back, I try to model my business on what I've been told my grandparents' business was like. So they ran a plumbing business, the sort of the first half of the 1900s. There you go. But I grew up hearing stories from family and from other people in the community, just who described how their life was better because of my grandparents. Just stories, little things at the time, but obviously back in the day, everyone's paid in cash on a Friday. Well, small community, and so one of the guys was an alcoholic, who if he was given his cash, he'd go to the pub first,
Then home.
then might go home. If not, he'd go to the races the next day after he woke up somewhere, and the wife would have no money for groceries. So instead, the wife came and spoke to my grandmother, and so instead my grandfather would give my grandfather his wages. She would take it home to the wife, while my grandfather not spotted him, but shared him a couple of beers at the workshop. And so he'd had his couple of beers, and then he could go home to the wife. He was still sober, and she had money for groceries in the family.
And that's just layering the once again, culture. It's about providing a space where the staff, if your staff and team can trust you, you're a long way ahead. One of the things I really like in here, you're creating a safe and respectful workplace where blokes can be vulnerable. A lot I want to hear. I don't want you to gloss over that. I want you to break that down.
Yeah. So, it's. We'll go back to the story I told. So one of the best examples I've seen was one of my team coming in and saying to the guys he was working with that day that, oh, hey, look, guys, I'm just not in a good place right now. I'm struggling a bit. So if I'm slacking off, just let me know. I would not mean to do it. And instead of copping grief or people just ignoring him, the guys actually said, well, do you want the day off and we'll cover for you? And he's like, no, I want to be at work. And so then the team did cover for him. Yeah, he was a bit slow or whatever else, but there was no griping. There was just an understanding everyone's fighting their own battle.
You don't know what's going on the other side of the table.
Yep, that's it. You're not looking to get involved with anyone's life outside of work, so to speak. But as much as you like it, it doesn't just stop at the door. And I think we lose, I've seen it in other places I've worked, good employees, like really decent people, have been lost because of their personal circumstances. Not because they're bringing it to work, but sometimes you just need some space.
And it's a hard thing to recognise because it's you know how difficult it is for anyone in general to say they're not okay.
Yep.
Men especially are terrible at it.
Yep.
And even those of us who are comfortable with saying it are still terrible at it. And that's probably one of the things I looked like reading when you gave me all your notes, is that, that's that bit of shared culture that I really like, is that not only are you pushing the culture downwards, but you've got team members bringing it upwards, so you're creating a space that, mental health is never going away. It's not going to get any smaller. It's not going to get simpler, I don't think. But if you've got a space that can help manage it, it also helps the business as well, because it may save you someone having an incident. It may save someone. It might find out someone actually needs to go and get a care plan rather than come to the road. Mate, come on, we'll help you. We'll get you over to go see someone. That is so important now.
Yep.
But, and one of the things I struggle with is the old school setup that I jackarooed in and so forth. You just couldn't do it now. What made you want to build that?
No individual one thing. I think it was just the culmination of, as I said, family growing up, but then going through, and I have worked at so many places, primarily through my travels, and you just see in stark contrast the businesses that actually are humanized and treat people with respect and a bit of leeway, but still expect high standards. And you see the ones that are the polar opposite of that, and they're just not functional. They are just meat grinders, and I didn't want to be a part of that.
No, churn and burn.
Yeah.
So if you meet someone tomorrow morning who's starting a business for the first time, what's one piece of advice you can give them that you deeply believe in running a business?
Job cost. So especially in our industry, and it sounds odd. I've spent this time talking about the staff, but without profit, there is no staff, there's no business, there's no health. You're gonna become stressed, and don't get me wrong, like the amount of, we deal with rain, so the amount of rain.
I know, I've talked to you after a week of rain at that. It's almost not worth talking to.
Try a month of rain.
I hadn't done a month, I've done a week, that's bad enough.
Yeah, so it's like here, like this morning, it's raining, and if you just turned your phones off and turned the electricity off, we're not trading today.
Yeah.
The overheads don't go away.
No, they don't, and you've got a factor for it too.
Yeah.
That's one of the hard things, I see, one of the things you always said to me was you never like getting the fact that someone sending you a Facebook record with the thing, this person's going to get the lawn mowed for $40. All those sort of jobs don't take into account the insurance, the machinery, the gear, the maintenance, but literally the cost of put clothes on the staff to actually so they can go and do their job.
Yeah.
It's not a negative, it's just the reality of turning on the lights.
We had I try, if I see someone who's new in the industry, and especially if they're younger, I try to catch up with them. Number one, we turn away jobs every single day. They're good jobs, good clients, but we just can't take them on. So I'd rather give them to someone else, or at least pass the number on. But then the reality is someone going into, say, lawn mowing, they're probably not going into it as their lifelong aspiration. They probably fell onto it, thought it's easy, and they're the guys that'll charge the $40. And just sit down with them and go back to job costing and say, okay, well, let's work out all of your costs and this and break it out. And when they work out, they're actually working for about $3 an hour. It's really gratifying when they'll actually be able to explain why they put their prices up and explain why. But then we've actually had quite a number have called up and just said, hey, thanks, I've actually decided to go back to work. And I was like, I'm not trying to talk you out of it, mate. Like, there's plenty of work. No, it's more than I thought.
Look, I think going into small business is not for the faint-hearted. I don't know how many times I've said that sentence. But trying to help, and I think it's magnificent, the education, because if you don't help someone go into business with a bit of education, you and I stood in networking groups and listened to people talk and going, you have no idea, you don't even have an accountant. And knowing that in probably 6 months' time, the world's going to come crashing down because no one's taken 5 minutes to say, mate, have you budgeted for this? You're going to have tax, you were going to have an IOS, you're going to have a BAS, whatever it might be. I love any of you who spend that 5 minutes with someone and going, hey man, have you looked at this? At the very least, I say all the time, going, do you have an accountant? Well, yeah, but I haven't really talked to them about what I'm doing. I said, and I always just come book an appointment, tell them what you're doing, and I guarantee they'll change your setup.
And look, I don't want to sound like I got it all worked out, because I was absolutely one of those guys that didn't charge enough, because it was never supposed to be a business.
Systems, growth and strategy. We've done leadership, we've done culture, we've done building a business your way. Systems, which for me is process and structure, which I really love. So one of the hardest thing to do is quoting, price negotiations, those sorts of things. We're trying to get away from. We're just trying to go to levels. How have you dealt with that part of your system?
With the quoting, the way I dealt with it was get it away from me as quickly as possible.
Absolutely.
The actual organisation of a job and pricing it out, I can do that hands down. We've got spreadsheets out to Wazoo. Love the work, so it's not hard. But what I always did is dealt with the head trash and ended up arguing with myself. So I think as a business owner, whether it's ego, I must win this job, or that looming payroll, like, I had to win this job.
No one gives a bigger discount than you.
Mate, the number of times I sent out a quote and I knocked it down, sent the quote out, and then eventually got on site, and the customer was like, you're like half the price of everyone else. And I'm just sitting there looking at his head. So here I'm talking about people not charging enough. And so as soon as I handed that over, and not to talk So the person who does it is Connor in our business, and he's amazing.
He is good
at it. Yeah. So
He can handle me, so he's going all right.
but he has no sales targets.
No.
I don't believe in them. Well, for our industry, I don't believe in them. He has margin and satisfaction targets. And if the business doesn't play, the way we handle sales is very, very different. So if you ever want to see fear in the eyes of a person, get a bloke that thinks he's going to do lawn mowing and tell him you're going to teach him sales. That's fun to watch. But yeah, so quoting was to take it away from me, who had competing interests.
Yeah.
I gave it to someone whose only interest was to meet margin and meet quality.
And then but you talk about margin and satisfaction. Break that down a bit for me.
So the business requires a level of so we have cost, we add our margin, that's the price. I don't care where you live, I don't care the size of the job. And if we don't meet that margin, our business is not sustainable. So in our industry, you should be looking at about a 50% gross profit.
Okay.
So it's not particularly high, especially if you're talking other industries and that. But if you go below that, well, for March, we lost 2/3 of that month to rain.
Yep.
So you need a sustainable margin. And then all it takes is, because we deal in products that are, you can't control the weather, you can't control the turf to a certain extent. And if you have to replace something, well, what was a profitable job is no longer profitable. So yeah, sorry, yeah.
No, that's good. That's that. And what's the satisfaction part?
So the satisfaction, yeah. So, and if you're not around tomorrow, your clients can't depend on it.
Yes.
And the other side of that is the satisfaction is that if we come to your home and put turf in, and we always maintain the turf for the first couple of weeks.
And you did a magnificent job of that.
No, thank you.
Excellent.
But if that turf dies in that 2 weeks, or there's a patch of it, anything can happen. So we have some oil on it from the machines that coat it. We're going to replace it. No questions asked. We're just going to come and do it. You can't do that if you don't have margin.
Absolutely. We're the same. If a job gets buggered up, we have it built in, and that we can do something with it. So, and you've got my favourite word here, communication.
The bane of my existence.
Absolutely. But the one thing that if you do it well, your reputation just goes like that.
Yeah, so I'm jumping in because
These jump all you want.
I'm not good at it personally.
No.
But when you're a solo operator, it's easy because you're the one, you know the gardens, you know the people, you know everything. You're talking to the people, you're the one doing the work. And you know what? If you've got to duck out on Sundays to buy that extra stuff to get it done, you can do it all.
Go grab a coffee and a sausage when you're there.
That's it. Suddenly, as we're growing, and this has been some hard lessons, as you're growing, suddenly you've got a staff member at a property with a client. No one else in the industry has met that client or been on that property. The customer has a very particular way they like something done, and they're talking about that big tree in the back, which is actually the 3-foot camellia. And they want it reduced, which actually means they just want a couple of branches taken off the fence. And if you know that person well, you know all this instinctively.
Absolutely, yeah.
Instead, you've now got that staff member who in turn might not be a good communicator, has to relay that back either through our systems or to the office, that then 2 weeks or 4 weeks later needs to be communicated. If it's not that person for some reason, they need to communicate someone else going to site. That might need to be translated through one of the manager who's also not been to site.
What has happened to this tree?
And then so instead the large tree at the back that got reduced, we get a phone call going, only once thankfully, a phone call going, why has someone hacked at my, grandmother's favourite tree? Or vice versa, you have to rock up at the property and say to the client, hey, I know you gave instructions, but what were they again? And that's
You
just
just feel like a dickhead. You do, don't you?
just nothing you can do. And it's but that controlling that has just been a learning curve.
Yeah. So, tell me about your CRM.
Oh, I love my serum.
More than Neville.
Oh God, no. Nettle makes the serum here, mate.
I'll just see if I'm going to buy.
We're not talking about fishing here. No, serum. So we use a serum called Jobber. It's a Canadian one, and it's actually made for like small surface industries like us. We tried 3 or 4, especially when we're small. Try all the free ones, and they just never quite clicked. And we tried a few sales ones, landed on this one, and very quickly started to outgrow the free one, then the next one, and then I don't even quote me, but I think it was like it's like 5,000 a year.
Yeah.
And so you look at it and you go, oh, how am I ever going to afford that much? And back in the day, that was a huge amount of money. And now I look at it and I'm just like, how great is it for you not to have it? Yeah.
Look, when did you realise it was the very best thing you've ever done?
Ironically, when it didn't work. So, let me rephrase that. When I found out I'd set it up wrong. There you go. That's what I did it for. So I put end dates on some of our regular customers, or all of our regular customers, but had failed to set up the report properly that told you they were coming off. And so we're going along nicely until suddenly, where's all that money gone? Well, we have no money coming in. And all these clients have been dropping off the back end, and I didn't even notice. And again, it's not arrogance or anything like that. And thankfully, most of them call us and said, where were you last week? So we could hardly scramble and fix it. But there was a lot of clients who probably just thought that, they can't be bothered turning up.
I mean, they rang the next guy down the list.
Yeah.
It's that easy.
So it's at that moment where you just like, well, you look at the lifetime value of every client, losing one of those clients paid for that CRM for that year, 1 or 2 of them, and how many did we lose? How many years worth of CRM did we lose?
How long did it take you to get it set up and working just how you wanted it?
We still haven't, and that's more because we continue to grow.
Yeah.
So just as we get it set up, we'll grow where we've got to introduce another person to it.
Yeah.
I think we're getting there now, but that's actually more because we've got more opinions in the room.
Yeah.
So someone will go, oh, hey, I use this report, it's amazing. You're like, I didn't know that existed.
Yeah.
And we get a new feature.
That happened with our back office system too. The girls will show me something. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yep. Yeah.
And act like I knew what it was. And after they went away, I go to a computer and go, look, I did that. Yeah. So we're going to move on to a different section now. Family, balance, and marriage. So I'm going to ask the toughest question of all. What's it really like running a business with your partner?
I think the PC way to say it is hard. No, it is. It's incredibly difficult for me. I find it incredibly difficult. However, I don't think I could do it without Natalie. Not that I don't think. I know I couldn't do it without Natalie.
I wrote myself a line in a speech a few weeks ago, and it said, there are some days I will communicate with Tila over coffee and all the bits and pieces, and then there are other days we should be communicating via email.
Yep. Yeah. We are polar opposite individuals.
So who's the risk and who's the stability?
Oh, I'm the risk. I would literally just bet the farm just because I'm bored.
Do you feel something grabbing you on the back of the collar when you're doing that?
Oh, it's more like back to the shins, but yeah.
I pay money to see.
No, and Natalie is the polar opposite. I don't think she would take any risk at all if she had the choice. So,
but it's a wonderful thing, isn't it? Look,
it
is hard, but the yin yang actually creates so much balance in this business. It's frightening. Like, still I battle about all sorts of stupid things. But I appreciate every bit of them because it makes me think about something different.
Yep.
Because if we don't, you imagine being left to your own devices? Oh,
Just
trouble. Warning.
oh yeah.
So what's if you could pick a lesson that you've learned from working with your wife in working business, because there's going to be other working couples listening to this.
Yep.
Well, what would be something you could feed back to them?
This has actually been a combination of working with Nat, but also having the kids. I'm a bit of a. I'll sit and mull over something deeply, and then suddenly I'm aboard again. I got to go for it.
Yeah.
What I don't do is take Natalie or the people around me along for the ride as far as the conversation goes. So I've learnt that working with Nat, it was first sitting down and finding out how she processed her decision making and what information she required to process that information. And instead of just going in and go, right, we should do this and let's go, butt heads until I get my way, which with that was never going to work anyway. But
You can try it.
yeah, stop. But instead it was go in, say this is what I want to do, and instead present that information and also allow time for that process.
Do you think that helped your long-term thinking as well?
Kids did that.
Kids did that?
Yeah.
They're a humbling thing, aren't they?
They are, especially as one walks through the room and stops, looks up and pats you on the tummy and goes, gee, you got fat, Dad, and walks off.
Yeah, it's Nova. She does that.
Yep.
But, so how old are your kids?
10 and 8.
10 and 8. Oh, you're coming into teenagers. They do grow up okay.
Yeah.
They're just, the humbling part is when you stop being God.
Yeah.
That's how I term it. When they will look at you, and Nicole will probably back me up on this. There's a time that kids will look at you with this look of like, you can do anything. I'm with you, big fella. Let's just go. And then there's a day it changes. And I find it's a very strange thing.
Yeah.
Like I miss how Jane Miller used to just, rule the world. And I'm enjoying every minute of Nova. And that's when I work less on weekends. I do stuff on afternoons with her because, I'm doing a lot of my first lasts. And with your youngest, so are you.
Yeah. And it is humbling. Like it's funny. It's you try as hard as you can. You never feel you're doing a good enough job there. I think it's just
I've said it before, and Jamie Lee pulled me up one day. Don't just let Nova come to work. Go and do stuff with her, because all I did was come to work with you.
Yeah.
And we did lots of other things, but a lot of her really younger memories was maybe in here, maybe in the red van.
Yep.
How have you balanced that with your kids?
We tried from day one to try to work sort of a 9 to 5, and we tried to take weekends off. Didn't always succeed. A lot of the time.
Yeah, are you still succeeding?
More than I used to, but it's more than that. I think the trap there was I thought, well, I'm at home, so I'm doing the right thing, but you're still thinking about work, checking email, taking phone calls. You're not at home.
No, and there's got to be balance, because there are times when you've got to go, I've got to go to work.
Yep.
Yeah, because if you've had a month of rain, it doesn't matter if it's Saturday, you've got to go to work.
I have no idea where I heard it, but the greatest phrase I ever heard that I think helps me be a better father is forcing myself to stop what I'm doing when one of my kids is trying to tell me something and say to them, hey, I'm doing this right now. You don't have my full attention. I'm going to finish this. I'm going to put my phone down and I'm going to come over to you and then you'll have my full attention. And it sounds really formulaic, but it forces me to stop and actually say it out loud.
Yep.
And also to recognize, it's so easy to be, oh, so-and-so hasn't come in today. These 10 jobs aren't going to get done. Oh, by the way, the car's broken down. Oh, something else has happened. Oh, da-da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like trying to reply to all these texts. And the kid's trying to tell me about the amazing race she ran yesterday. And it's so easy to go, Yep. By saying out loud, yep. And it forces you to go, yep, no, I wasn't paying attention. And that, and the kids too, will call you out.
Yeah. And it's hard to hear your kids at times, especially teenagers. You got to look forward to that. But like I find there's a bit I missed with my older two that I just should have stopped and heard. I hear a lot more of Nova than I probably did of the older two because I just stopping and going, okay, what are you actually trying to tell me?
Yep.
Why has Toowoomba been the perfect place to have kids and grow a business?
The town itself, I think, is just a great mix of, it still sort of has that small town feel. Like it's small enough that you still have a community, a larger community. But then it's very much influenced by so many outside influences positively, and the people that come here, it's your access to the coast and the larger metros.
An hour and a half to 2 hours and you're basically anywhere.
Yep. And then more than that too is just, it really genuinely is an amazing community.
Look, I think it's an amazing community and an amazing business community.
Yes.
And there's so many of us who are like-minded, I think is a good word for it. You and I think pretty similarly, and you think about our usual crew that we hang with. I enjoy it because you can actually have a pretty open, honest conversation and you actually get some reasonable responses, not 5 people going, oh.
Yeah. I got hassled for ages by another gardener in town. Scotty hassled me for ages to join.
He was in here today.
Was he?
Yep.
I gave him his hat back, so he's okay. No, a whole other story. He hassled me for ages to join a business group. I was just like, I'm not joining one of them because I'd been in business chambers in like 3 different cities and multiple different things. And it was, honestly, it was just a dick measuring contest.
Completely ego-driven.
And honest, and given working in the bank, it was always the loudest person up the front yelling about how great they were and talking down to everyone else. And you're like, mate, your car's about to be repossessed.
Yeah, I know that.
And you're just like, and so I was like, I'm not having anything to do with those. And then finally came along the one. And I distinctly remember at that first time, it was, hey, let's hear about what everyone's challenges are at the moment. And the openness and the honesty in that room blew me away. Like I probably do sound like I'm going a bit over the top here, but I cannot express how just utterly surprised I was.
Having been part of that same group for a very, very long time, it's the reason I'm still part of it is that you can go there and go, wow, this is the problem I've got. And you'll actually get some reasonable answers. People actually give a shit.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's some of the bigger business groups, it's the ego stuff. And I don't get into it. I actually turn off very quickly because I'm like, I'm not here for that. But you look at being in business groups, look at the friendships you've now made. Look at the people who you may not be doing any business with them, but look at the friendships you've built out.
Yep.
I just love it. It's one of my favorite things. Yep. How have you adapted to networking? Because I know you love people so much.
Yeah. That's it's funny. I genuinely enjoy people. And it comes back to my introduction to networking was I was one of those staff members that was handed a business card and told, go network. And the examples I saw of networking in the corporate world were the worst you can think of. They, literally would go into a room and, for lack of a better word, speed date everyone in the room. And unless they thought they had a deal right there and then, they just stop mid-conversation, move to the next one. These are the examples.
Or send everyone a bunch of emails the next day.
Yep. Or send them a LinkedIn message saying, hey, we should do business. And you're like, I don't even know what your name is. Like, but then, yeah, and then honestly, I don't think I've learned to network until properly until I came here. I still don't do it well, but I think being in Toowoomba and finding out that it's more than bootlicking effectively.
So we're getting well along. We're now on to the hard way lessons. This is the bit where you get to tell me, one, what do you think your hardest lesson in business has been?
It was definitely saying yes, as we've spoken about. That was probably the hardest. That one. Probably learning that there's going to be pain. Like, yeah, you just need to choose what pain you're willing to accept.
Especially in growth.
Yes.
It just, no one prepares you for it.
No.
So if you were starting a business tomorrow, what would be the first thing you would write on the whiteboard?
Stay. Again, touched on already, job cost, and price for the value. But don't be afraid of staff.
Yep.
They, already mentioned Connor. I might sound a bit blasé about the other businesses doing well. It's people like him who have enabled us to have a business. It's every single other person that works there that enables us. So,
Team.
Yep. It's just
Team.
Yep.
So, what's next for Greengrass? What's next on your list?
Yeah, so the next is we're growing to the point where our guys genuinely have a path to progression. And that's not very far off, which is good. But more than that too, that path to progression doesn't just have to mean promotions. It's about opportunity, access to opportunities. And that's the whole point of the entire business.
What's something personally that's what's next for you? If you're achieving all this growth and getting in the place and all these people doing these wonderful things, that's for you.
Health and a hobby. It sounds really weird, but that's one thing I've got a fishing rod that's, actually I've got a boat sitting in the backyard and it needs a new motor. It's been that long since it's been operated.
Well, it's a very good point. You think about everyone you know in small business. You tell me what they do for themselves and how they look after themselves.
Yep.
And most of them will look at you like you're crazy and say, I go to work.
Yep. Natalie's and my hobby at the moment is renovating.
We are mad? What's wrong with you?
We actually, mate, the IKEA flat pack, well, it's not renovating, but the idea of an IKEA flat pack and a bottle of red, that's a great night, mate.
I've got to talk to you seriously off camera. My wife and I have firmly agreed, shaken hands, drawn blood, spit, everything that we are never renovating together ever again.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
I nearly died.
No, this is the second place that we went back to. Literal, no ceilings, no eternal walls. Like, I stood at the Marks Molly where I fell through the floor the other day. Like, yeah, and it's actually fun. But that's one of the, we talk about the pain of your business.
Yeah.
So the pain for me is any customer is not happy. I'm not just saying that. Like, genuinely, I'll lose night's sleep over that. But that pain is worth it to be able to take a week off.
And enjoy doing the things you enjoy doing.
And just work with Nat at the house. Yeah.
So this is the book of questions. You get to open this, read out the question and who it's from, and then you get to answer it. And then dropping a pen, you get to write your question in afterwards.
Terrified about this. Okay.
If you're from around here, chances are you've had something embroidered, print or pressed by us. And if you haven't, come look us up.
What's one belief you held for years that turned out to be wrong, and how did letting it go change everything? I listened to everyone else except myself. So, yeah, it was ironically, I think I'm one of those people. I had it worked out quite young, and then thought, no, I've got to grow up, and that means I've got to listen to other people. And you definitely do. Like, you know, you have to learn and listen, but by taking other people's lead and not trusting myself enough.
How hard was it to realise that you should have been trusting yourself?
It was actually really hard, because when you trust yourself, I always found when I trusted myself, you just have so much fun. And, you know, anything serious shouldn't be fun. So, but yeah, that's like, so you sort of say, no, I'm having too much fun. This can't be, you know, despite the fact that you're making more money, more friends, having fun, and you go, oh no, this is wrong. And then you go back to, preferring to get into a car crash rather than get into the office. So,
Well, there you go. Did you see that question? Wasn't that scary?
No.
Well, guess what? There you go.
Right.
You have to come up with your own, Yash.
Someone has to read my handwriting. Which way do I? Okay. So this one here?
Just under there.
Under there?
Write your name and then your question.
All right, I reckon that's got it.
All right, mate. Well, I think that's us done. Thank you for the honesty, and we're going to do this again in 12 months, because I feel that there is some bits of this story that I've got to get out, especially some of that overseas stuff. Even though your mother might not want to know, I want to know it. If people want to find green grass lawn mowing, look that way and tell them where they can find it.
Yep. Check us out at greengrasstoowoomba.com.au or on the socials, where there now someone may have finally convinced me to start doing that stuff. But no, and on the socials, so at Greengrass Toowoomba, and sorry, Greengrass Lawns and Landscapes.
I was that to say.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for watching The Hard Way. You know, Dale's been fantastic. If you want to find us, you can search The Hard Way on Apple, on Spotify, and on YouTube. If you just search The Hard Way and Hip Pocket Toowoomba, you'll find us, no dramas. Thank you very much for watching.